It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Tony Rose says, what is the strategy when trying to do a backdoor Roth IRA? She says, now I'm over the income limit. But there's a current traditional IRA balance. Do I convert the outstanding IRA balance first? So that is one probable solution. If you have an outstanding traditional IRA that has pre-tax dollars, one of the things that you can do is you can convert those pre-tax dollars to Roth. However, you need to be aware that if you do that, that is a taxable event. So if you have a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 traditional IRA and you convert it to Roth, that's going to be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of taxable income that you will have to report and will have to pay taxes on this year. Now, what that will allow you to do in the future is to do non-taxable Roth conversions. But I don't know that that might be the perfect solution right now, especially depending on your income tax bracket.
Yeah, I mean, the Roth conversions, why do people have to worry about this is once you get over an income threshold, you're not allowed to contribute to Roth IRAs anymore. You can still do Roth 401ks, Roth 403bs. They have no income limits, but Roth IRAs do have an income limit. But there's this weird opportunity in the fact that as long as you don't have any other IRA assets except for like inherited IRAs, you can still contribute to a traditional IRA and non-deductible IRA contribution and then convert it to a Roth IRA. And there's pretty much zero tax impact because you had no IRA assets. Now, the way the tax law is set up is that they're going to ask you, hey, 12/31 last year, January 1st this year, did you have any IRA assets? And if you say yes, they're going to make you prorate that conversion, meaning it's taxable, a portion of it. So that's why you have to get rid of these assets. So that's the first thing, just to answer the question. Bo is right, and this is what the viewer or listener is alluding to, is that they could just convert it all this year, pay taxes on it. There's also another avenue, is that you can look at your ERISA covered plans, your 401ks, your 403bs, and see if you can roll those assets into it so that then next year when you want to consider doing a Roth conversion, they look at your year-end balance and go, hey, you got rid of all those assets. Yep. So that's the strategy.
Way to do it.
That's a way to do it, is you either pay the tax on the traditional or you try to figure out, is there another avenue to roll those assets into so they don't go into that calculation with the IRS.
Now, let's throw two little caveats on there, though. How do you make the consideration of whether this makes sense for you? Because you want to be careful. Maybe you have a large IRA rollover from a previous employer and it's multiple six figures. And you say, okay, well, great, I want to do this backdoor Roth so I can do $6,000 or $7,000 a year. Well, you want to be careful taking this unconstrained IRA that you might have access to the entire investment universe and really low-cost options.
Great point.
And roll it into a really crummy 401k plan that doesn't have a lot of diversification and has really high expenses or has insurance sub-accounts. It may not make sense to move over that much wealth to simply open up the ability to do a $6,000, $7,000 backdoor IRA contribution every year. So that's the first thing. You want to make sure that you're not letting the tax tail wag the investment dog over your entire portfolio. Here's the other thing you want to make sure of, and we actually learned this through experience. In almost all circumstances, whenever you roll money into a 401k or into a 403b or into an ERISA-sponsored plan, generally speaking, you always have the option at some point in the future to move that money out of the plan again. So if you move it in and then a couple years later you decide you want to move it back to the IRA for some reason, you can do that. But not in all circumstances. You want to make sure you check with your plan provider, go read the summary plan description to know, am I actually able, if I roll in $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 into this plan, can I also roll that money back out in the future, or do I have to be terminated and leave employment before I can get back to those dollars? Because if it captivates those dollars, it may not make sense to do that. So you just want to make sure that you measure 2 or 3 times, cut once, so you don't make a bad decision. And this is a very complicated strategy to begin implementing. It's a great time to consider hiring a professional advisor if you are thinking about these, because again, you'd rather do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. So I would advise that.
Or Carol sent me this great saying, because measure twice, cuss once.
Cuss once, I like that. That's great. That must be a saying in Texas or in Tennessee or in Texas.